Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Alex, and I'm a customer service admin, and I'd like to give you all a really warm welcome. Please introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. Firstly, quick intro to Charity Digital. We are a registered UK charity, and our mission is to help other charities increase their impact and be more digital. We do this by two main activities. One is providing access to software products that charities really need at really reduced pricing, and the other is publishing wonderful content, articles, podcasts, and videos, and running webinars and events that educate charity professionals and volunteers to make better use of digital technologies. So our session today is on elevating your social media content with Adobe Express. That's with Andy Lambert. This session's going to go over how charities can drive engagement on a social media, what an effective strategy kind of looks like, and how to effectively produce compelling content that communicates your mission. You can expect to learn a couple of things from this webinar, such as how to create a well-structured content strategy, how to use Adobe Express to scale content production and manage your campaigns, and which social media channels and content formats generate the most engagement for you. I do want to just share a couple of house rules and pointers for today's session. The session is being recorded and it's going to be uploaded on our on-demand service within about a week's time. The slides and other resources will also be available, so don't worry if you miss anything. It's all going to be available to watch later. Closed captions are also available for today's session. To enable these, at the bottom of your Zoom window, you click the up arrow, and then next to that, you click closed caption and then show subtitle. That will allow you access to see the captions. During the webinar, please ask lots of questions. We love questions. In the Q&A section, though, so we can see them and prioritize them. And that's just also located in the Zoom menu bar for you. And those are for Andy to address at the end of the session. And if you see any questions that you feel like resonate with you, you can hover your mouse over any of those questions and you can also upvote them. So give them a thumbs up and we'll prioritize those queries. And finally, if you encounter any issues with your sound, with image, or you can't see anything, please let us know in the chat as well, and we'll do our level best to make sure to get everything back up and running as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Andy now. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alex. And hello, everyone. Lovely to meet you all, and lovely to see everyone introducing themselves in the chat. So this is wonderful. So thank you very much, and thank you for sparing an hour of your likely very busy day. So I do appreciate it. So my commitment to you is to make this as practical as possible. As Alex mentioned, ask as many questions as you want in the Q&A pod. Often social media is very specific and personal, related to your own audience type and your own charity. So I'll do my best to answer them, but also my commitment is that I'm happy to answer them offline. I'll share my social channel details. Feel free to send me a DM and I'll happily address your questions one-on-one, especially not everyone feels comfortable having questions addressed in front of everyone else. So I'd like to provide a nice safe space that we can do that. So I want to provide as much value as possible. That's my commitment. Anyway, so let's get right into it without further ado. I'm Andy. I spent basically my working life in social media, built a social media company, a technology company, which grew to being the fastest growing in the UK and got bought by Adobe, which was kind of mad. So from a little garage just outside of Reading, we built a company that got acquired by one of the world's biggest companies, which is still, frankly, staggering. So that has now meant that now I work on this product called Adobe Express, which we're going to touch on at some point. But there are really kind of two parts to this session today. So one, we are going to ground ourselves in social media strategy and the kind of the fundamental principles that drive good social media practice. Some of these you're likely all over, and some of these there might be kind of tweaks that you might want to make to your strategy. And the point I want to make right at the beginning is that whilst there are too many like self-proclaimed experts and gurus around social media, I don't class myself as any one of those. There is no single right way of doing social media. It is all changing very regularly, and I'm going to help kind of orientate you a little bit. It's changing very regularly. It can feel overwhelming at times, but there are some fundamental non-changing principles that if we stick to, we can stop ourselves getting overwhelmed and we can deliver maximum impact without all these kind of little tips and tricks and hacks that so many people talk about. We can simplify this whole process because actually when you strip it away and think from a first principles perspective, social media isn't actually as complex as many people make out. Then I also want to give you some tooling to be able to deliver on the things that we're talking about, and most particularly free tooling, which is very important. So once we've gone through the strategy and the best practice as to how to build a solid social strategy that we can commit to and will deliver results, I also want to talk about how do we actually build that. And we're going to be building 3 social media posts together. And also, I've got a little surprise for you. So I've created 16 social media posts, basically a month's worth of social media content that's entirely free and available for you to use. So when we get to that, I'll share a link. You can use it as you see fit. We're going to go into that, but little kind of takeaway for you to. So hopefully this is going to be value packed, and you'll take away loads from this. And let's get into it, shall we? All right. Optimizing social media strategy. Let's firstly talk about why social media matters. This was a very interesting and useful report from Hootsuite about social trends in nonprofits. Again, none of these are groundbreaking things. We call them trends, but they're not really. They're just principles as to how people use social media and how nonprofits can get the most from it. So I think the mantra for 2025 is about like, it's tempting to be everywhere. It's tempting for our head to be turned around. Oh, Blue Sky's growing, Threads is growing. Oh, should I do YouTube Shorts? Oh, look, I should do more Instagram stories. We can't be everywhere. We're all resource strapped. So we need to double down on the things that are working, and we'll talk more about kind of platform strategy and how to maximize our impact as we go through. But ultimately, I don't know if you're like anything like me, you often feel kind of compelled to try new things or be everywhere. It's not practical. And in fact, there are actually ways that we can maximize our impact by focusing. That's the key piece. And as we talk about like social ROI, and this going to the second bullet point, what we need to think about in our content is like education, entertainment, informative content, ultimately value-packed content. What is in it for the audience? Again, this isn't anything new or groundbreaking. And again, I'd hasten to call it a social trend, but it's again good to round ourselves or ground ourselves in the principles that are universal. The social content we put out should never be about us. It's about someone else, and it's about other people's experience and how they can relate to that at a human emotional level. So connecting with the community ultimately. And what we're trying to get through social media, and the goal of this and everything that I'll talk about, and I'm sorry, a spoiler alert, nothing that I'll talk about today is going to help you go viral, because I believe to my core that serves no good for anyone. The important thing is how do we build consistent growth over time and a community that's based on the audience that we really seek to serve. And that's the thing I really care about. And it's the thing that I cared about in building my business to get it to where it got to. It was all about, it's not about that spiking growth of like, oh, how can we get on the back of this trend? Honestly, that's distracting. We just want to focus on the core principles of what we want to go after, the audience we seek to serve, and being able to serve content based on that space. Entertaining, interesting, informative content that is value packed. And it's also important as we think about the overarching organization, depending on how big the nonprofit is that you're working within, this might vary. But often social media gets kind of kicked to the side where it's like, okay, could you just do a post on social? And it's honestly marginalized far too much for the impact. Social media is without a doubt the most powerful marketing channel of all time. But oftentimes we undervalue it by kind of just thinking, oh, it's just that person's job over there. No, it's not. It's everyone's job. It's everyone's job to represent the organizations we work for on social. So the more people we can get involved, the better. Because the thing that makes social media sing for organizations, whether non-profit or for-profit, the things that make it sing is what other people say about you and your organization, not what you say. So the more people we get involved into our plan, the better our outputs are going to be. Everything we created when I was spending my life building social strategies for a business, which I still do now, it's all about how can we get a critical mass of folk talking about us. Now, that might sound utopian. We're going to go into ways to practically deliver that. But I often find when you're thinking about how let's build our strategy, we're nearly at the end of January in 2025. If we want to think about how can we maximize our impact, maximize our bang for buck in terms of our resources for this year, what can we do? How can we get inspired? Whilst I'm going to talk about strategy in a second, these two resources, if you've not used them before, these are really, really powerful to give us some inspiration. So I would make a note of these. I'm going to share this deck and I'll share a link later on in this session. Within this deck, you'll have the links to these. So Meta Ads Library allows you to look at other non-profit ads to see what they're running and see the metrics behind those ads. So have they performed well? Have they got great click-through rates? That kind of thing. That will also give us some clues as to other non-profits in our space and also in our geographies, because you can look different geographies. Are they, is it kind of human-centered content? Is it focused on like the cause? Does it have, one of your like donors as a focal point? What is the type of content that's working? Just look at that through like a critical eye and go, okay, maybe you get a bit of inspiration. And same for like TikTok for Good. Now, obviously, TikTok's going through a little bit of chaos at the moment, but largely that doesn't really affect the UK, right? So if we're seeking to serve individuals within the UK and Europe, then we're okay for now, which is good. TikTok have, I'm sure you all know this anyway, have quite a lot of focus on improving outcomes for nonprofits. So there is a lot of if you search, basically you search this on Google, TikTok for Good, and it'll take you through lots of guidance around all of the different kind of fundraising options and lots of inspiration around how you could make TikTok work for you. So find those two really useful resources to get inspired. All right, let's now look at some social media trends. What is happening? Let's zoom out. We're going straight into the detail there. Let's zoom out 10,000 foot, right? So we've got some inspiration. We've got some kind of principles as to how we can make social media work, getting it across our organization, getting inspired with TikTok and TikTok for Good and Meta Ads Library. But actually, let's level it up. And now let's look at some broader macro effects. What's happening in the world of social? So where are we at? Over 5 billion users monthly logging into social. So that's about 60% of the world's population. So as I said, there is nothing bigger or better than social to build a brand. Nothing has connected us like social. And interestingly, the average number of platforms that people use across, so that's worldwide, but if you look at UK in particular, 6.4. So it's likely that your audience are consuming content across multiple different platforms. Like most of us, I'm sure your audience probably have a preference as to where they spend most of the time. But if you look at your own phone, if it's probably anything like mine, you'll notice you probably consume content across a number of different platforms. So we do need to think about how can we repurpose content to multiple platforms. That's a theme that's going to come up quite a lot today. Now, this will tell you everything you need to know about me in the fact that this is my favorite slide of the whole deck because I am very nerdy. But let me break this down to something that's actually practical and useful. And the reason it's my favorite deck is because it really helps us understand where our opportunities are from a social media perspective. So let's give you an example. So let's then imagine, if you can see my mouse moving around, let's imagine that, let's just say Instagram is your focus point. So you want to focus most of your social media efforts on Instagram, and that's what you do today. All fine, no problem with that at all. But we also want to think about how do we extend the reach of our content? How do we maximize bang for buck? How do we repurpose our content to reach as many people as possible? And this gives us an idea of where those audience overlaps are. So if you look at Instagram, 80% of Instagram users are also using Facebook, 77% of them are using YouTube. WhatsApp's probably a little less relevant in this instance. And then over 50% of them also using TikTok. So if you're thinking about, okay, maybe you do a few like Instagram reels today, maybe you get most joy and you get most impact from doing most of your focus or delivering most of your focus on Instagram today, no problem at all with that. But actually, if you're doing video content, for example, that video content can be easily repurposed to those other platforms too. No problem at all with that. And we can reach more people as a result. So thinking multiple platforms, and this gives us a real nice clue as to, if people are consuming our content across multiple platforms, we want to reach them where they are. So it would serve us well to repurpose our content so that it appears on those multiple platforms where there is strong user overlaps with the platform that we currently focus on. Hopefully that makes a degree of sense, but I think this is really important to thinking about how do we define what platforms we want to be most active on, or at least we want to publish content to. I'll show you how to make content repurposing really easy when we get into the tools section at the end. Now, I'm sure this will be a surprise to precisely no one, the fact that I'll say video content is the most important format on social. No surprise there whatsoever. And it's really important that we think about this as organizations ourselves. Short form video is the best for reach. So this is what, when we say reach, we mean the number of unique individuals that see our content on a platform. So reach is a really important one, especially as we're talking about like brand awareness, reaching more people, etc. So if you look at Instagram, this pink line denotes when they introduced Instagram Reels, which was 2020, and you can see how that's driven the predominance of reach across the platform. Now, it doesn't mean that other platforms or other formats like written content or carousels aren't as important, but we need to start thinking about how each of these different post formats, like short form video, for example, how they factor into our overall strategy. So if you're looking at driving awareness and getting more eyes on your organization, then short form video is the most important format. Now, short form video is also particularly powerful for reaching non-followers. And the way social media has changed, and I won't go deep into this because we've only got an hour together today, but social media has fundamentally changed. TikTok changed the landscape, and I'm sure you well know, and it forced Instagram and others into making critical changes to how the whole platform worked. What TikTok did to turn everything on its head was that, yes, they allowed you to follow people, but TikTok didn't really care if you follow people or not. They were serving you content based on your own preferences, not who you followed. We call this a recommended media model. Historical social media has always worked around a social graph. You follow people based on the kind of interests that you have or the people that you want to, or an organizations you want to follow, and you got served content from them. Doesn't work like that anymore. You'll barely see content from the people that you follow on Instagram now because they realize that actually with TikTok flipping on its head, they completely changed social. And as a result, people spent much more time on TikTok than the other platforms because TikTok has more akin to Netflix than it does other social platforms. It's an entertainment platform where people come and passively consume content. They don't actively follow people, people are just consuming. And that has had a huge impact on what Facebook and Instagram and now YouTube Shorts have done because they realize that actually people are quite bad at choosing who they want to follow. Actually, computers are better. They think computers are better and algorithms are better at determining the content you want to see. So what that means for us, sorry for the long narrative, what that means for us as organizations, it means we now have wonderful opportunity of reaching people that we didn't reach before or couldn't reach before. And it doesn't matter whether we have 100 followers or 300,000. The playing field is leveled. Content quality is the only determining factor as to what drives success. So whether it's TikTok, Reels across Facebook and Instagram, or Shorts, actually you'll notice like watch rates are highest for those with fewer followers. So it's so important to think about, okay, if we want to reach new audiences, short form video is the way to go, and thinking across multiple different platforms. YouTube Shorts in particular is a strong one, of course, TikTok, Facebook and Insta strong too. TikTok is still the strongest for engagement in terms of interaction, so you still get most comments and most likes as a percentage on TikTok. But YouTube Shorts is growing dramatically. You'll see this blue line. YouTube Shorts is really strong. Honestly, one of my I try not to give generic recommendations because social media and marketing is so context specific. But at a high level, too many organizations do not invest enough time into YouTube. There are 2.5 billion monthly users on YouTube, and more people spend more time watching YouTube than they do watching Netflix. So it beats every social platform hands down, and it beats even Netflix. So it's so important. And like it's mind-blowing to me that you can publish content for free and appear on where people are consuming the majority of YouTube content, which is in nice smart TVs in their living room. So basically, that's my call to action to say, make sure YouTube is part of the strategy, please. LinkedIn is great for engagement across content formats too. LinkedIn is having a moment right now. It's my personal favorite platform, but I don't see enough nonprofits being active on LinkedIn, thinking that LinkedIn needs different approaches for your content. The great thing about social, and coming back to that first principle stuff I keep on talking about, is that all of these platforms are coalescing around one single content format. It used to be really hard to think across multiple channels and platforms, etc., because you'd be like, oh, okay, I need to write something specific for LinkedIn, something specific for X, something specific for YouTube, etc. They're all focusing heavily on this short form video. So in fact, it's never been easier to repurpose your content and reuse it across different formats to drive growth. And me personally, I'm not in a school of thought where you need to be different on different platforms. Your organization should, as far as I'm concerned, and coming from like brand focused social media, I believe your brand voice should be consistent and your narrative should be consistent across platforms. Lots of people have, however, caveat here, lots of people have different opinions to me on this one. My opinion is one of like simplicity, I would say. And again, there are no right answers in the world of social. So again, being clear, this is my opinion. You don't have to take it or follow it, but hopefully it helps and is useful. Talking of content formats, so thinking, we've spoken loads about short form video, how it's great for reach. You can reach non-followers. It's amazing to drive awareness. But of course, there are other content formats and other things exist too. So carousels, so your multi-image posts, do serve a really useful purpose. And actually what we've just seen, sorry for the slightly diddy chart here and very small line, what that's denoting is that what we've seen is kind of a slight inversion where engagement rates, so likes, comments, etc., interactions on your posts are stronger in Instagram carousels than they are in Reels, for example. So again, thinking about like both different multiple channels to repurpose our content as we've been talking about, but also consider how different formats serve different purposes. So if you're thinking about Instagram first, for example, your Reels will be great for your top of funnel, driving awareness, but then for your followers are still more likely to see your stories and your carousel posts and more likely to interact with them. So that's your kind of like community building a bit more depth in your content. So again, thinking about platforms and thinking about formats too. But again, there aren't too many to consider really. It's just two. So with that, how are we doing for time? Doing all right. So let's build a content strategy. So there are three fundamentals at the bottom of every content strategy. And again, this is my opinion. This is my model. Take if you want, don't feel you have to. So 3 parts. So your pillars are the things that never change. And I'm going to bring this to life in a second. So if this doesn't resonate right now, it will very soon. So content pillars, I recommend between 3 and 5. I really just say 4. They don't change. So they are your fundamental pillars that guide everything. What we don't want in the world of social is for you to sit with a blank content calendar at the beginning of a week and go, what should I post this week? We don't want that. So we want structure. So that's where pillars are really good. On top of these pillars sit content themes. So they represent the types of content you're going to create, and the topics are the actual posts that you're going to create. So let me bring this to life. So here are what I would class as the pillars to use. Conveniently, they spell the word best. Again, this is my opinion of the word best. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be yours, but hopefully it's helpful. This represents the four key things that when I've studied social strategies, and I've been sad enough to do this for most of my working life, typically the best social strategies fall into these four things. And the reason they're in this order too is because it starts with the most important and what we need to major on. Bond, educate, showcase, tell. Bond is about human oriented connections. It's not about driving a result. There's no call to action on it. It's about unveiling our unique humanity, our missions, our visions. What do we seek to serve? And it's about connecting at an emotional level. Same as way how we build relationships, right? Connect at emotional level first. Point two is educate. Once we've connected at emotional level and said, hey, nice to meet you, I'm Andy. Educate is about adding value. But of course, no relationship should ever be take, take, take. It's give first. Just give as much value as possible. And educate is where we provide as much value. And what happens when we provide value? We build trust. And trust is the underlying emotion that governs all of our behavior, whether it's purchasing products or choosing a cause we want to donate to, anything like that. Trust governs everything. Then showcase. Of course, we need to demonstrate our expertise, but this is where we can present the things that we're doing, and you all on this call do incredibly wonderful things. And I very much respect everyone that's working in a nonprofit greatly. So this is where you want to showcase the wonderful things that you're doing. And that gives you an opportunity to subtly promote, for want of a better word, your causes and your nonprofits and your initiatives, but do so in an interesting way, right? So whether it's kind of behind the scenes of maybe you're doing, I do a lot in the local food bank, for example. So, when we're packing the food parcels, for example, going behind the scenes of that, for example. And then, of course, there's tell. Whether you're for profit or non-profit, you still want to drive some form of action, whether it's donations, whether it's we need volunteers, whatever it might be. So, of course, there's still some kind of tell. So it's still important. Bond, educate, showcase, tell. Think of it the funnel. Bond, emotionally connection, educate, build trust by adding value, showcase, demonstrate your expertise through an interesting lens, and tell, drive the action that you want. I think of this in the marketing funnel, and these are our pillars that underpin it. So for each of these, I promised you I'd made some content ready for you. So this is content that is applicable pan industry, pan whether you're for profit or non-profit, etc. So here are four kind of ideas at each of these. Now, this deck, which hopefully my colleague on the call will be able to share a link that I shared earlier, which is a link directly to this deck. Embedded in this deck are all of these templates that we can use Adobe Express for, which we're going to jump into in a second. So these are your themes. So Bond, of course, here is our pillar. Underneath the pillar, we got our theme. So an example theme could be, well, I've called this creator spotlight, but this could be a spotlight of anyone. Spotlight of a stakeholder, spotlight of a volunteer, spotlight of an individual that you've helped, for example, whatever it might be. Again, like I said, social is about turning the spotlight over to someone else, not making it all about us. So that could be an example of that. And the reason I call this a theme, because the topic could change all the time. So it's reusable. So like I said, we call it a creator spotlight as a theme, but the topic of that might, like I said, might be a stakeholder, might be a beneficiary, might be a donor, whatever it might be. Sharing your story, it might be an origin story, it might be the story of an individual within your organization with an interesting background, might be the story of someone that you've helped, whatever. So that kind of thing. Quote posts, ask me anything's always very useful as well, especially when you might be dealing with complex or sensitive topics that you've got experience in. Ask me anything's are also really good. The point of these, and you can click each of these links, which will take you into the templates that I've created, which we're going to dive into in a second. The point of these is that these are evergreen. No, this wouldn't be all of the content that you ever do. Of course, some things are going to be more unique to you. But at a fundamental baseline, we have our pillars that never change, and we have our topics that are very easy to build off in an evergreen way. So let's go into education. So what's the educate type of content? Could be top resources. So like signposting your audience to certain things. So using the example of the food bank I volunteer in, there's lots of other support like citizen advice, for example, to help people that might have fallen on hard times. What are those other resources that can help people? Best practice tips. So best practice tips, for example, I'll put it again in the lens of the food bank. This will be the case of like how do we make bread last for longer? How do we maximize, what are the kind of like meals that we can make for under a certain value, for example? Just thinking off the top of my head here, but industry news update. What legislations, for example, that's changing related to what you're serving? Is there new resource? Is there grants, or is there anything else that people can access? That's changed in legislation that people can yield. Basically, people should look to you and your organization to go, actually, I need some help here. I need some guidance. I need some direction. This is where we have an opportunity to add value using our position and our understanding of the cause that we solve for, or the cause that we're trying to address, and being a trusted resource to deliver content related to that. Showcase, I think this is all kind of fairly similar understanding. Could be things like behind the scenes, which always works well. I've referenced that. We're going to build a behind the scenes post in a second. Could be like testimonials of people that have worked with you, for example. Progress updates. An example here as this theme. What I mean by this is like, it always works so well on social when you've got that unique human connection, when people connect when someone is on a mission to try and do something, so. And certainly, I mean, I'm talking to the ideal audience for this because you've all got a very solid mission and a purpose of what you're trying to address. And then your progress update gives you an opportunity to say, like, this is what I'm working on. These are the things that I'm doing. It might sound narcissistic or feel like it's about you, but actually it's so interesting to go behind the scenes and understand the journey that either you as an individual or your organization or people within your organization are on. Basically, go behind the scenes again of that. And then so this is probably less applicable here because this is kind of more commercially orientated. But again, we still need to drive some form of interaction, whether it's, looking for volunteers, whether it's donations, that kind of thing. So with that, let's then dive into how we'll actually go ahead and create that content plan. So this is where we're going to start diving into Adobe Express. We're doing all right for time, perfectly halfway through, and I'll make sure I'm going to leave some time for questions. So this is Adobe Express. If you've not heard of this before, the quick high level is that this is a completely free create anything app, right? So one of the primary purposes of it, however, is creating social media content. So whether you've used Adobe before and you might be familiar with the like broader creative suite, yes, it connects to that, but do you need to know anything about design to use it? Absolutely not. It's designed, one, to be free to use, and two, to allow anyone to create anything. So ubiquitizing design. But there's a couple of things we want to dive into first. So from this home screen, on the left-hand side, you're going to see this schedule icon. So here, what you're going to see is your ability now to start building your content plan, maybe based on some of those pillars and themes and topics that I've mentioned. And interestingly, you'll see some of these ideas and topics already embedded into your calendar here. So not only have I've shared this kind of deck with you, when you look at this calendar for the first time, you'll actually see there'll be certain like national events. So Lunar New Year yesterday, for example. Maybe you've got something to say about that. But you've also got suggestions as to what you can post. And here is where we can start building our plan for the things that we're going to say across multiple different channels. So we could like draft that post and we can choose from the multiple different channels that we want to connect, and we can connect multiple of them. So again, like I mentioned earlier, like this is going to make it a lot easier to repurpose our content across different platforms. The other thing that's super useful that we're going to use quite heavily over the next 15 minutes as we create some content together is this brands area here. You won't have as many brands as me because mine's a little bit wild, but for your organization and your charity that you're responsible for, you'll have some form of brand kit. So you'll have logos, you'll have a color palette, maybe some fonts, maybe some assets. The most powerful thing about when you create a brand and add all of your components here is that, rather than create one, I'm going to use this Live Well brand for this example today. But here we can add our logos, colors, fonts. We can save some templates. I'm going to cover that in a bit, so it's going to make more sense. I think this is going to be so useful for speeding up content. And we can save some assets too. So anything that we regularly use in our content, maybe some images, whatever it might be. this is going to dramatically speed up our content creation process. So all we need to do is one thing. One, create an account on Adobe Express, which is entirely free. Two, go ahead and add your brand into this. And then three, have a look at this little schedule, which will give you an idea of how you can start building out your content plan. And with that, point four is where we're now going to get started with creating some content. So I'm going to go back to this deck. So in this deck, I linked to each of these templates. Adobe Express is built on, well, not built on, it's one of the primary purposes of Adobe Express is all of these templates. So you can get inspired based on whatever you want to create. So maybe you're looking for, let's go to our outputs here, and we maybe want to look for some Instagram posts. We can go ahead and get inspired related to that. So if we're looking for a post about trying to recruit for volunteers, so we can go ahead and get a load of inspiration around the kind of content that we could create to go ahead and find volunteers. So again, giving us a nice starting point for our design. Anyway, so they're templates. Now we can save and make our own, which I have done in this instance. So I'm going to just click that link to create a spotlight. And there we go. And here and this is how you could use this deck too. So just click the link, and then all you're going to have to do is press this remix. And now immediately we're making this template our own. Of course, this doesn't look like our brand, right? So this isn't quite right. So what we're going to do is actually do a couple of things. So that's firstly, I'm going to remove this individual, remove this logo. I'm going to make some changes here. And actually what I'm going to do, because I want to have that individual, of course, you probably have the photo of the individual that you want to include in this community spotlight post. In this instance, I'm actually going to go find it because we've got loads of stock media here. So I'm going to look for a person waving. So I'm actually going to bring in a video here. This is quite cool. So we can take what was static and now, so we've taken this from a template and now we're building on it. And we're going to bring in this video, but we're going to remove the background of the video. So we're going to let that kind of go for a moment. And we're going to give the name of the individual. So, and we're going to use this post to highlight a volunteer. So whilst that's going to get busy with removing the background here, what we're going to do is apply the brand. Actually, it's already done that already. So now the background of this video is moved. So I'm going to go ahead and move this. In the layers on the right hand side, I'm going to just go ahead and shimmy this lady down, make it a bit bigger. There we go, make that bigger here. So we're going to pretend, because I use this from stock, you wouldn't do this, but we're going to pretend this person is Julie here. But what's quite cool is that we've taken something that was just like a basic static post, and now we've turned it into something that is really dynamic and animated. So imagine how that will stand out in your kind of Instagram feed. So of course, this doesn't have our brand colors yet, or doesn't have our logo. It's not identifiable as our nonprofit. So you know how we set up our brand a moment ago? We can just find this on the left-hand side, go to my Live Well Eatery brand, which we're just using for this example, apply the brand. So there we go. We're already now applying that. So now it's already in our brand colors. Now I'm going to tweak a couple of things because that looks not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and change that color. There we go. That looks better. So now it's in our brand colors. Now this feels a bit more like us. And of course, we're going to go and add the logo in here. Perfect. We'll pop that down in the bottom. Wonderful. So now we've got something we've taken from like a very basic template and now we've made it our own. And the great thing is now we don't have to start from that template again because now we've made it specific and our own. We're just going to press make a template. We make this into a template and save it to our brand. So again, like this is going to speed up the whole content creation process, just saving it as a template because we know we can use that again and again for that kind of like, community spotlight type of post scenario. We can do a couple of other things with this as well. So we've been speaking a lot about like repurposing across multiple different formats. So why don't we make it an Instagram story, a TikTok video, Facebook post, Instagram reel, duplicate and resize. We've now just made this post applicable across multiple different formats as well. So incredibly powerful where we can now organize it across multiple different channels. So now we've optimized it across multiple channels. We can go ahead and then share that too directly. So I'm going to now share to social. And then here is where I can add all of the connections I want to, connect it to Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, and we can publish that video across multiple different platforms at the same time. Again, incredibly powerful. I'm just going to go ahead and save that as a draft for now, and we'll review that one later on, because for speed, let's keep on going through. I want to do another one. So we're going to go ahead and do another creation. And again, we're going to focus on video because that's such an important part of it. So what I've done here, I've just gone to the next tab in our deck that we've shared with you. And we're going to go to a showcase one behind the scenes. We're just clicking on that link. And that will take us to your template, which we can go ahead and remix. So we're going to follow quite a similar pattern on this, but we're going to show you what you can now do with video content too. So whilst we did turn something static into video, let's really double down on video. Now, we just want to go ahead and replace each of these. So there's 3 scenes in this video, but not hugely relevant. We want to do a behind the scenes. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to just right click on it. We're going to replace and upload from our device. Let me just go find where it is, upload the first scene into that. Then I'm going to go to the second scene. As you can see, it's going to be really easy just to make this video so quick. And I'm going to go to video 2, upload that one, and then go to the third scene. Again, right click, I'm going to replace and upload from my device and just upload the third scene. Now we're going to make a couple of tweaks. So we go to this second one. I'm going to double click into it because I want this chap's face a little bit more centered. And in this video too, I want that coffee cup a little bit more in the center. So with that, let's just kind of play it through to see where we're at, because I've just changed the 3 scenes. That's how easy it is with working with templates, because if you like the idea of how the flow looks, just swap it out for your own content and you already got kind of transitions. So, we're going, imagine this is like going into a cafe, or maybe this is like behind the scenes of our food bank, which I'm using as the example today. And now we've kind of brought it all to life, and we can tell the story through some text too. So with that, that looks okay. That coffee scene wasn't amazing, actually. I'm just going to extend that a little bit that way, I think. And what we're going to do is apply the same logic that we did last time, which is head to brands, and we are going to go ahead and take this Live Well Eatery brand. We're going to apply the brand, see literally one click, and then we've got our brand stuff right in here again. I'm going to bring in our logo. Now with our logo as well, I'm going to go ahead and just pop that in the bottom because we want our logo to go throughout this whole video. And let's change some copy. Now this is going to be behind the scenes. Make that a touch smaller. And move that into the middle. It's always horrible typing in front of people. We're just going to call this of our new cafe. So I'm just going to do that first. Now, something also that I find incredibly useful. So now we can kind of see where things happen in our video. It's all looking good. I need to add a little title in here. In fact, I'm going to do that now. So we are going to go ahead and say relax in a lovely atmosphere. Now, clearly I'm no copywriter, so what we also have the opportunity to do is rewrite. So we can rephrase this to make it sound more professional or personal, that kind of thing. So I want to kind of lengthen this, make it sound a bit more personal. And it's going to, there you go, chill out in a charming and pleasant environment, unwind and enjoy the peaceful ambience. Maybe let's go with that. So as you can see, it's going to give us some suggestions because not all of us are natural copywriters. I'll include myself in that statement. So here, it's just going to simplify our process of writing good copy, whether you're doing it for social or any other format. A couple other things we can do. We've got animation at the top here, something that can be really useful. We can animate everything. We're going to animate everything in our design with one single click. So then everything is going to come in like this with our logos, and we'll see how those little components will animate in. And very quickly, we've got quite a good looking video. The only thing that's going to make it a bit better is when we start to add some audio into this, and we want maybe some gentle daydreams. There we go. I don't know if the sound will come through. Let's play it through. Maybe you can hear the sound, maybe not. So there we go. So we've got something that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and, we can take the same approach where we can make that a template if we want to regularly reuse that, or we can just go ahead or we could go ahead and share that directly to social, of which I'm going to share that to Instagram. Now we've got a choice. We can make that post, reel, or story, but given everything I've just been wanging on about reels, it's very important that I think that we make this one a reel. Now, I'm going to just write behind the scenes of our new cafe launch. Right, so clearly that's my copywriting prowess again is on show for everyone. So fortunately, I don't have to worry too much. I'm going to rewrite this one. So literally click generate, rewrite. And what we've done is train this all on social content. So it's going to be, it's orientated based on good quality social content. So there we go. We've got a caption that's looking good. And yeah, I think we're happy with that. If we wanted to just tweak a bit, we could easily do that, highlight a bit of text, and then we could just rewrite certain sections. So sometimes we know what we want to write, and then sometimes we just want to kind of tweak it a little bit. So that's where this kind of copywriting assistance, both we've seen it as we're working in the video in the editor, but also when we're working on the caption directly too. We can edit the reel cover to give it kind of maximum impact as well. Also love previewing content, so how it's going to look on social. So that looks pretty good to me. We could even schedule some first comments in there if we want to put links to things. And then we choose the date and time that we want to put it out on. So I'm just going to actually put it out on Sunday, but I'll save it as a draft because I don't want this one going out. And that's it. That is now scheduled, so we can return right back to this home page. So we've been working with templates across both static and video content. As we see, we've been using content to work across multiple different channels. We could drag, oh, I clicked into that one. We could drag and drop and move it around if we wanted to. We can also click into anything and we could, under more options, we can duplicate. We could reuse that to go on other platforms as well if we wanted. So duplicating and reusing is a great way of testing out other platforms. Remember how we were talking about platform overlaps earlier? So that can be a really useful way of looking at it. Right, and I'm gonna head out for questions in just 1 second. And the final thing I just want to share with you is as we're going into, let's have a look at, again, I'm going to look for the volunteer needed one. So I've shown you so far working with templates that have been pre-made. So let's work on a template that hasn't been pre-made. So let's look at a type, let's look at a multiple page template. So let's just say we want a little Instagram carousel for looking for some volunteers. So what I've done just in this templates area on the home screen, I could look for, multiple page templates, and I've been given this one. I quite like the look of it. Click customize the template. Of course, we could replace the media with photos that we have ourselves, really easy to swap and change. But again, all we need to do is find a template that we kind of like and then bash, apply the brand, and we're good to go. So now we've already made something feel uniquely ours. We can swap this out as we need to. And we really feel like we've got so much opportunity now to get inspired about the content that we could create, build the content around a solid strategy. And with that, I am now going to head on into questions. So hopefully, I hope you found that useful. So let's go. Alex, what do we got question-wise, my man?
Yeah, we do have quite a few questions, but first of all, thank you so much, Andy. That was really, really helpful, and that was wonderful to see all of the examples and be taken through how you use and manage with Adobe Express. So let me see, and we'll get to one of the first questions here. Okay, so from Donna Williams, we have a question. Do you have a social media calendar slash framework that you could share with us? Or is there one that you use to help plan your content through
So
weeks and months?
yes, so that's both the deck that we shared and embedded into Adobe Express, because you'll see all of the ideas already nested in the calendar based on the things that I've been speaking about. Yeah, already there in the calendar waiting for you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think I also did see that during the example there. We've got another one from Rebecca Cave. She says, do you think it's a missed opportunity to not be on TikTok? They're pretty stretched where Rebecca is, using the three social media platforms at the moment, and just wonder if they need to rethink their strategy.
Great question. It's always tempting to be everywhere. Um, my my single point would be um, give it a try because there is very little downside in it. If you are, the caveat here is if you are creating short form video for Instagram Reels, it's so easy to repurpose that to TikTok to see the impact you get. And it might, you don't really have to, even though this, I'll be honest, and this is probably a non-popular opinion. Like when I'm testing new platforms to see whether they'll work, I'm not actively engaging on it. I'm really just seeing like, is it helping with my reach? And we can be okay with that too, because we are spreading the message of the causes that we're championing. So even if you're not spending time engaging or you don't have any time to think about TikTok, maybe just post a couple of posts and repurpose something you've created for Instagram on TikTok, and maybe post a couple in a week, come back next week, see the impact. Just because you're posting on a platform doesn't mean that you need to be everywhere. You can even say in your bio, like, any questions come to, go to here. Like, so at least you can feel like you're signposting someone, but somewhere rather. That would be my take.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Another question we've got from Lizzie Handley. Can you connect and schedule across multiple social media accounts? And if you manage multiple clients' accounts, for example.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, you can connect up to 72, I think. There's a lot. There's a lot you
Okay, so
yeah.
that that is quite a few. So another one we have is anonymous question
Ooh.
that seemed to disappear for a second there, but here it is. They have been using Canva for similar designs. What are the advantages of using the Adobe Express over Canva, you'd say, if you have any, or if there's anything you feel like singles out Adobe Express over Canva?
Yeah, it's a very, very valid and very good question. So, uh, very similar product offerings. You will understand Adobe Express in a heartbeat. Very similar to Canva. Um, Core differences probably I'll focus on two. Is one, all of the planning and calendar social media stuff is a lot more. It's a lot deeper, a lot richer. So, it kind of gives you a nice end-to-end flow of like creating and publishing. So it's nice to do that in one platform. We also make that free as well, so I think that's very like even the calendaring and publishing stuff is all free. I think that's the only social media publishing tool that's entirely free, so I'm really pleased to be able to offer that. So thanks to Adobe for that. Um, so that would be the other difference. And if you are creating anything with like generative AI at all, so this might be a bit more niche. So if you're ever creating any like text to image or anything like that, and we'll be allowing you to create video from like a single text prompt very soon, all of that is commercially safe. And it's really important like to think that if you use anything from other generative AI tools, you're not meant to use it for business purposes. So because it's not copyrightable, whereas everything we create with our generative AI is trained on licensed material. So I think they're two key differences.
Okay, cool. And just going off copyright, as you said there, we've got a question from Rachel Livingstone that asks, is there copyright-free music available on Adobe Express that could be added to content?
Yep, there is indeed. There is indeed.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, there's a whole library. So we've got probably one of the world's largest stock libraries, images, video, and now audio too. So yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, we did see it was a really big library for charities and non-profits to use. So that's really good. Let me find another question here. I've got one for another anonymous question. They have been using their phone to create a lot of short form video content
Love it.
but it's a bit low quality. Is there anything that you'd suggest for charities with a lower budget in terms of creating content?
So everything I do is off my mobile as well, to be honest with you. And as as long as you have this, the biggest trick I have is this, which cost me. It's going to look weird. This cost me like £5 off Amazon. Everything looks
Ah,
better
yeah.
with a good light. So um, honestly, even if you don't have like the latest iPhone or Android or whatever, just stick a good light in front of your subject, and most things look okay. You've obviously got Adobe Express on mobile too, so you can just go straight from mobile into Adobe Express. I didn't show that today, but for any footage, even like older iPhones, it's perfectly fine if your subject is well lit. That's my
Mm.
only guidance.
Yeah, it's a really good guidance for filming to make sure subjects are really lit. So that's fantastic. We've got a question from Charlie Rowan that asks, what counts as a short form video? Is it
Aggressive
under
glasses.
30 seconds? Is there a certain template for it to be a short form video?
Love it. Brilliant question. Thank you for uh, my opinion is under 90 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I class everything as under 90 seconds because that's typically what all of the platforms support most heavily. So yeah, under 90 seconds.
Okay. Cool. Under
But
90
Greta's asked a question which is kind of tangential to that. Well, actually not tangent, it's directly related to that. Is what's the optimum length? The best trick, there is no optimum length, and unfortunately there is no like golden rule in social. It's depending on your audience type. The best thing that you can do and the best metric that Instagram has. So if you're posting on Instagram or TikTok, both of these, just look into your analytics and look at, there's a metric called average watch time. Look at that. And if your average watch time of your audience for all of your videos is 30 seconds, but most of your stuff's 1 minute 30, don't take my advice of doing 1 minute 30. Start collapsing it down a little bit because you want people to get to the end.
seconds. Yeah, that's fantastic. Question from Kelly Chan. I think you've answered this, but is Adobe Express completely free? Or is there any paywalls that appear in the content when you're using it, or is it completely free?
Great question. So for this might be a charity digital question as well, because this is probably at the now at the ragged edge of my knowledge. Now, this is a freemium for everyone else, it's a freemium product. So mostly free. Most of the stuff I've shown you today is entirely free. And then there's a 9.99 on top of it for premium. But I believe, and I need to be kept honest on this, is like with through charity digital, it makes it entirely free. I think that's the case.
I
But
can answer that. Yeah, it is. It is completely free,
bizarre.
and it's you can redeem it for 1 whole year, guys, and then you can just redeem it again by coming back to Charity Digital, and
Beautiful.
it's completely free. So yeah,
Thank
you
you,
can
Alex. You
access
saved me on that one.
it. No worries at all. That's absolutely fine. Somebody has asked, going back to Canva, they use Canva to design resources and not just for social. Can you do that with Adobe Express? Are there other things apart
Yeah,
from
of
social?
course. Yeah, in this session, limited time we had together, just focus this on social. But yeah, everything, whether it's presentations, flyers, you want to print a t-shirt, the whole gamut of
Yeah.
things. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me find another questions. Can you tag people? Asks Sarah Stevenson when
So yes,
uploading. Yeah.
yeah, you can. You can right now. We're making some improvements to it as well. And as we're talking about features, there was an earlier question as well about alt text, which is super important. So can you add alt text to images? Um, so both for app mentioning, which we're improving in the next month, and alt text will land in the next month too. So the answer for alt text is not yet, but ask me again. If we did this session next month, I would say yes, we can, and show you how to do it.
Okay, so there's a feature coming soon. I've got another anonymous question here. Can Adobe Express be used as an alternative slash replace the use of Hootsuite?
That is my intention for sure. So, being brutally honest, I know Hootsuite very well. Um, So right now you probably wouldn't replace it, but by the end of March you'll have what I haven't shown you today is all of the analytics piece. By the end of March you'll have all the analytics in Adobe, which then means for Adobe Express for free you're going to get everything from creation, all your brand stuff, all of your publishing and calendaring and analytics. I mean that for free is pretty wild.
Yeah,
So
it is pretty incredible and
yeah.
really helpful that it's free for all the non-profit profits and charities. Let's see for another question here. How are we doing on time? Yep, got a little bit of time. Um, if you want a beneficiary, asks Sarah Smith, to talk about their story and how they've been helped, what's the optimum length of them doing that? Kind of gone over that a little bit. It's keeping it towards about 90 seconds or maybe going towards the sort of a little bit less than that. But what would you say is optimum for a sort of engaging piece of media like that as a social media post?
90 seconds is a good aim for that because it's a forcing function to get you to tell the most compelling story as possible, because your idea is you want to get people to watch to the end. So that's yeah, agree. 90 seconds. Take your
Cool.
advice on that one, Alex.
Okay. Sarah Smith also asks, the issue is great long videos of people using lots of words and trying to edit that down with no experience of video editing. Any tips on the editing side of things? We saw you use some of the tips and tricks there editing with that little post you made. Are there any other tips you'd offer?
You're gonna like my answer to this one, Sarah. I'm full of the toolkit today. So firstly, um, the product I would use right now is a product called Opus Clip. So Opus Clip, and there is a free version, but is paid. So there there is a paid version of, so you can do a limited amount for free. Basically, you can upload any long video, and it automatically clips it, takes the social first parts and clips it. So it's going to give you 30 to 90-second clips from any long form video. Upload a YouTube link, upload a long chat with a stakeholder, whatever, is then going to automatically bring you out a subtitled perfectly trimmed clip from it. Incredible. The good news is also we're bringing that feature in. Basically, it's a really good feature. So we're going to do the same in Adobe Express. So we have to do that in Adobe very soon. But Opus Clip is the thing. If you need to do it today, that would be my recommendation. Uh,
Okay, cool.
yeah, that should
Uh,
really help.
I've got one or two more questions here, I think. One from Pip Armitage, asking, can you upload SRT files on
Ah,
Adobe
yeah, like for
Express?
transcripts and stuff. So you can do all your closed captions on Adobe right now. So you upload a video and you can do that. We will so not right now, but we're shortly adding SRT support. But you can transcribe, you can do closed captions in Adobe Express too. I didn't show that today, but yeah, you could.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Another anonymous one here. Uh, can you create a team on Adobe Express so multiple people can sort of all collaborate on
Oh
one
yeah.
project? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we need another hour just to go through like all of the other things you can do on Express. But yeah, it's designed for team and collaboration and working live and sharing all of the things that you'd expect from a collaborative tool. Yeah,
Okay,
so
cool.
yes to all of the above.
Nice. Another Canva one we've got from Paula. Can you transfer your templates from Canva to Adobe Express?
There is a way of doing it, and um, if you, I'm gonna share my screen just momentarily, really quickly. I know we're over time, so I'm gonna keep this super short. Um, if you go to Express and go to the plus menu here, I don't know why I make it so small, but it's here. Import from other apps. So when you click that, obviously it takes a minute to load as well. There's a little kind of like guide as to how you can import from. Oh, we actually removed Canva from there. Oh, that's annoying. It's going to show that. Oh, no, there it is. So at
Ah,
the
yes, I see it.
top. There you go. So it'll give you some guidance there. it's not super straightforward. So you might want to put aside half an hour or so. Probably not quite that long, but you get an idea. But yes, we try and guide you through the steps to do that.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all of the questions, guys. You really were inundated with wonderful questions to ask Andy here, but we are going to have to tie it in a little bow. There. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And to Andy for the wonderful presentation and wonderful answers to all of the questions. Just want to let you all guys know that our next webinar will be on mastering fundraising and grant management for transparency and impact, and that's going to be taking place next Thursday on the 6th of February at 1 p.m. and we're going to pop a link in the webinar chat for that. Finally, if you've got any feedback, I can see some of you saying thank you already. Please put that in the chat. And it's been absolutely wonderful bringing this webinar to you all. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.